The South China Sea is a vital maritime superhighway, a vast expanse of water that connects nations, economies, and cultures across Asia and beyond. Every year, 1/3 of global shipping passes through these waters, linking Asia's factories to the world and fueling the global economy. The sea is a lifeline for international trade, carrying everything from electronics and clothing to oil and natural gas. Beneath the waves lie vast reserves of oil, gas, and some of the world's richest fishing grounds, making the region a magnet for competition. These resources are not just valuable, they are essential for the prosperity and stability of the countries that border the sea. For the Philippines, these resources are essential for food security and economic survival. Millions depend on the sea for their daily catch, and the nation's economy relies heavily on access to these waters. For China, they're a solution to soaring energy demands, and a way to secure vital supply lines for its growing population and industries. This convergence of trade, energy, and food has turned the South China Sea into a flashpoint of geopolitical tension, where the interests of powerful nations overlap and often clash. Here, China's ambitions collide with the sovereign rights of its smaller neighbors, especially the Philippines, whose fishermen and Coast Guard are often on the front lines of this struggle. The conflict is a high-stakes standoff. Legal rulings are ignored, and Coast Guard vessels face off in dangerous confrontations that can escalate in an instant. The risk of miscalculation is ever present. At its core, it's a struggle over territory, resources, and national pride, with each side unwilling to back down from what they see as their rightful claims. For the Philippines, it's about defending its future, its sovereignty, and the livelihoods of its people. For China, it's about reclaiming what it sees as its historical domain, asserting its power, and securing its place as a regional leader. The world watches, knowing a single misstep here could trigger global consequences, disrupt trade, and reshape the balance of power in Asia for years to come. At the heart of the dispute are two irreconcilable claims. China's 9-dash line, drawn in the 1940s, claims over 80% of the South China Sea, citing centuries-old history. The Philippines, however, bases its claim on modern international law, UNCLOS, which grants it an exclusive economic zone 200 nautical miles from its shores. Much of China's claim overlaps with the Philippines' EEZ, creating a direct clash. For Manila, these waters are critical for food, jobs, and energy independence. For Beijing, control means resources, security, and national pride. The result? A collision of law, history, and ambition. In 2013, the Philippines challenged China's claims at the Permanent Court of Arbitration, seeking legal clarity, not ownership. In 2016, the tribunal ruled overwhelmingly for the Philippines, declaring China's 9-dash line invalid under international law. The ruling also downgraded many disputed features to rocks, denying them broad maritime rights. China rejected the verdict, calling it waste paper, and doubled down on its activities. Beijing's refusal to comply exposed the limits of international law when faced with a major power's defiance. Since then, China has expanded its presence, building artificial islands and harassing other claimants. The legal victory remains unenforced, a precedent cited by Manila, but ignored on the water. The standoff continues, with law on one side and raw power on the other. Nowhere is the standoff between nations more visible than at Second Thomas Shoal, a remote outcrop inside the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, deep in the South China Sea. Here, the turquoise waters belie the tension simmering just beneath the surface, as rival claims collide in a high-stakes maritime chess game. In 1999, Manila made a bold move, grounding the BRP Sierra Madre, a WW2-era landing ship, directly onto the reef. What was once a warship became a makeshift outpost, its battered hull now home to a small detachment of Philippine Marines. Their mission, to assert the country's claim and maintain a presence, no matter the odds. The ship, rusting and barely habitable, stands as a powerful symbol of Philippine resolve and defiance. Its corroded steel and tattered flag are daily reminders of the nation's determination to hold its ground, even as the elements and political pressure take their toll. Resupplying the Marines has become a high-stakes drama, with every mission risking confrontation. Each supply run is a logistical challenge, as small boats dodge blockades and rough seas to deliver food, water, and hope to the isolated crew. China views the Sierra Madre as an illegal occupation and has tried to blockade it, deploying Coast Guard and maritime militia vessels to intercept Philippine boats. These tense encounters often play out just meters apart, with both sides refusing to back down. The goal is clear: to force the Philippines to abandon the outpost by making life untenable for its crew. The Marines endure cramped quarters, sweltering heat, and constant uncertainty, their resolve tested daily by both nature and geopolitics. Each supply run is a test of nerve, watched by the world. Journalists and international observers document every move, knowing that a single misstep could escalate into a wider crisis. A brief agreement in 2024 eased tensions for a moment, allowing supplies to reach the Marines. But beneath the surface, the fundamental conflict remains unresolved, with both sides unwilling to compromise on their claims. The fate of this rusty ship is more than a local issue. It's a barometer for the region's stability, reflecting the shifting tides of power and diplomacy in the South China Sea. The standoff at Second Thomas Shoal encapsulates the broader struggle for control, sovereignty, and security in one of the world's most contested waters. Confrontations around Second Thomas Shoal have grown increasingly aggressive. China's Coast Guard now uses powerful water cannons against Philippine vessels, turning routine missions into dangerous encounters. Chinese ships, much larger than their Philippine counterparts, block, ram, and intimidate, forming floating barriers. Incidents in 2025 saw Chinese vessels physically blocking and even ramming Philippine boats. Advanced tactics include lasers to disorient crews and harassment of civilian fishermen. Each clash raises the risk of miscalculation and escalation. Filipino crews face relentless pressure but remain determined to defend their waters. The frequency and intensity of these incidents show that tensions are only rising. China's strategy is gray zone warfare, coercive, aggressive, but just below the threshold of war. Instead of its navy, China deploys its massive Coast Guard and a state-backed maritime militia, blurring the line between law enforcement and military action. The China Coast Guard, the world's largest, uses overwhelming size and force to dominate encounters. The maritime militia, disguised as fishing boats, swarms contested areas, blocks access, and gathers intelligence. This civilian facade makes it hard for other nations to respond without risking escalation. China's most permanent move building and militarizing artificial islands, now bristling with runways, radars, and missiles. These unsinkable aircraft carriers let China project power across the sea. The result, a new strategic reality, with China enforcing its claims from a position of overwhelming strength. The gray zone approach keeps rivals off balance and the world guessing. In response, the Philippines has pivoted back to its alliance with the United States under President Marcos Jr. The Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement now gives U.S. forces access to more Philippine bases, strengthening deterrence. Manila is also deepening ties with Australia, Japan, and European partners, holding joint naval exercises to signal unity. By internationalizing the dispute, the Philippines raises the diplomatic cost for China's actions. Manila's new weapon, assertive transparency. Journalists now accompany patrols, capturing footage of Chinese aggression for the world to see. The Philippine military releases videos and photos of confrontations, shaping global opinion and putting Beijing on the defensive. This information campaign exposes gray zone tactics and wins support abroad. The battle for the South China Sea is now fought as much in the court of public opinion as on the water. The South China Sea standoff has settled into a dangerous stalemate, neither side willing to yield, and tensions simmering just beneath the surface. Each maneuver, each patrol, is a calculated message, a show of resolve that keeps the region on edge. For China, backing down would undermine its national identity and strategic ambitions. The government frames its actions as defending historical rights and national pride, making compromise politically costly and almost unthinkable. For the Philippines, surrendering territory would betray its sovereignty and future. The stakes are not just about land or water, but about the nation's dignity, security, and the rights of its people to their own resources. Assertive transparency and strong alliances have galvanized Manila, making retreat politically impossible. The government has rallied domestic and international support, turning the dispute into a matter of national unity and regional cooperation. The risk of escalation is ever present. A single incident could trigger a wider conflict. Even a minor miscalculation or accidental clash could spiral out of control, drawing in more players and raising the stakes dramatically. The US-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty means any attack could draw in the United States, raising the stakes to a global level. The presence of American forces signals a commitment to defend allies and deter aggression, but also increases the risk of superpower confrontation. The world's economy depends on these waters. Conflict here would disrupt trade and trigger chaos. Over a third of global shipping passes through the South China Sea, making stability vital for markets, energy supplies, and everyday life worldwide. The standoff challenges the rules-based order, pitting law against might. International courts and diplomatic efforts struggle to keep pace with the realities on the water, as legal victories often clash with power politics. This is more than a territorial dispute, it's a defining contest of the 21st century. The outcome will shape not only regional boundaries, but the future of international law, alliances, and the balance of power in Asia and beyond. As long as the struggle endures, the South China Sea remains a flashpoint for peace and stability worldwide, a place where the hopes for diplomacy and the dangers of conflict are never far apart.